Oops. Hello. Sorry. I'm not sure what happened there. Okay, so I couldn't help myself. I'm not supposed to work on this really, but yeah, I just can't help myself. So in the last stream, we were just playing around with using Mastra to build like an agent, and we played around with like writing files and running this on CodeSandbox so that hello, Siggy. I couldn't put this down. So I got my code rag in here. I'm running it with a quadrant store. So if we look inside the project here, we see that we have like the coding agent and then the actual project. And this project is like just a Vite application. And now I can ask it, what is this? Well, I guess first I want to show you. This is how it runs through all the files, and it builds up these summaries of what each file does. And then it makes summaries of what each folder does. And then shoves that into the embedding source. It doesn't actually embed the code, because you don't really want to embed code for a coding agent. You want to embed the conceptual understanding of what the code does, so it can reason about where to make changes and what the application actually does, and all of this stuff. And yeah, so that's what we're doing. And now I can say, like, what is this project about? And yeah, it's just a Vite standard thing, and it says this project is focused on setting up a React application using TypeScript and Vite. It includes configurations, blah blah blah. How would you describe the functionality here? How would you describe of this project? I don't know. I hope my yeah, it's a template designed for setting up using TypeScript. Quality and deploy supports fast refresh through official plugins. Blah blah blah. The HTML file serves as the entry point with the main content rendered inside the designated div element. This setup is aimed at facilitating the development. Yeah, does it have a counter? Yeah, the project includes a counter in app.tsx. So this is fascinating stuff. So the point now is that if I'm gonna ask this again, could you change the initial count to 10, right? It would know about this. So it would know which file to go into and read that content, update the code, and write it again. So that's basically what we're gonna do now. We're gonna go into this coding agent. And now this code rank tool doesn't actually update the does not actually update on file changes. That's something I will have to implement, and it's nasty business. Like, what's really cool about it is that with CodeSandbox and the Git flow we have, like, you would have this main branch. I'm actually working on main now, but typically it would be protected, and it would automatically pull in changes from main. And whenever you pull something in, you get file changes, right? That triggers the watcher, and then it just updates those specific embeddings, and then you're ready to roll for your next PR. But yeah, it needs to be super cheap, right, to make these summaries and these embeddings. Embeddings are super cheap to create, but creating the summaries weren't like super cheap, but I think they are now. Like OpenAI pricing, I don't know how much it costs now to use, because GPT 3.5 is good enough to make summaries of code. GPT Do they even have pricing? Do they have chat completion? Explore detailed pricing. Oh, here we go. GPT 3. Oh, 3.5 turbo. Oh, that's fine tuning. Other models. Yeah. Look at this. It's like it's super, super cheap. Per million tokens. Yeah. So like that's also a thing that why I stopped the previous project. It was just too expensive. But let's go in here and actually add some more tools to this agent. Let's bring back the import stars from and I'm not sure how we're gonna do this. So what I think, this is gonna be fun. So what we're gonna do is that I'm gonna implement new functionality and then we're gonna fork the project and then I'm gonna ask it to do something again. Because then, or maybe we should just try implementing the watcher. Yeah, maybe we could do that using AI. That would be nice. So from FS, so this is the code rag. And then we're gonna have export const read file, create tool, read file, read a file. Path. Like, why do I even write code, right? Yeah, and we have to get project path. So this will be join. Let's see, join with path. Yeah, and by the way, this would need to be like more strict so that well, I guess we can do. How can we do this? Ugh. Let's just do. So you can't like go outside of the folder, but it doesn't really matter because this is in the cloud anyway. So if you want to mess up your shizzle, be my guest. So get project path. Where were we? Read file. Turn result to string. Something like this, right? I don't think we actually need to catch the error here. So let's just do that, and then we're also gonna do a write file. Write file. Oh, write file. Write file. So this would be and contents the string. Like this would be void. And this would be write file context.content. Yeah, we'll just await that and then we're happy. Not sure why the prettier broke here, whatever. And then let's go into the actual agent and give it read file and write file. And for some reason it can't find it. Okay, and like there's a lot of stuff I haven't done here. There's so many things you can do to optimize this. Like in terms of RAG, like retrieval, you can do a lot of things there. But I'm actually using Llama Index still. So I'm just using the quadrant store, but I have Llama Index over it because they are like exceptional at doing retrieval and have a lot of good tools for that. So I'm not actually getting an embeddings hit. I'm actually getting an LLM response from querying the database. So I'm kind of allowing the agent to make a query, like talk to an actual like code rag agent kind of thing, and get a response from it. Anyways, so what I'm gonna try to do now is just, let's see, it would be fun to kind of open the, the project, open externally. Oh, there's so much shit here. Vector, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Could you, so I'm not sure like how well, like I haven't done very good instructions. We don't have like any workflow in place here. So I'm not sure how good it is at actually like verifying first if the feature is already there. But could you make the count, like what it should do is like it should query first to figure out if there is a count there, right? And then it should read that file, update the code, and write the file. Could you make the initial count be 10? I'm very curious. Oh, interesting. So it doesn't actually go in and query where it is. So I'm going to give it some instructions. I wonder where we should do that. By the way, I want to check one thing first. I haven't seen, oh, I thought there was a workflow here. Oh, because I removed the workflow. Let's see, I just want to look at this workflow. Oh, huh. Wow. Forecast schema, plan activities. Oh, this is, wow, this is very interesting. Fetch weather, plan activities. Yeah, so here I want to test this workflow because doing like being a coding agent is about what we're doing now. It's like you should first go and find relevant context, right? Before it decides what to do. But we're gonna just prompt it to do that. When asked about project code, well, when prompt to make changes to the code, query the code to find relevant files to read and write to. Like something simple like that. Oh. Could you make the initial count 10? What are you up to? What the fuck? I thought this was gonna be an amazing moment. What the hell are you doing? Oh. I made a mistake. So, oh, look at this. What was the error? Yeah. To determine the initial count, you will need to look at the implementation. Oh, is this the actual query? Oh, interesting. Yeah. So I wanna ask an AI agent about the code base. Like, this is an actual LM. So as you can see, it just passes initial count as a query. And then the result is the initial count is not explicitly mentioned in the provided context information. To determine the initial count, you would need to look at the implementation details in the... It's very cool, right? Invalid. Okay, so this is where? So this is coming from where? Got null. Is that? Where it's coming from? Blah, blah, blah. Tooled initial count. Yeah, now it's reading. Oh, look at this. I actually have tool call ID. I guess this is the thing that failed. Like content undefined. Tool call ID. Is there... Did I make a mistake? Read file, write file. What the hell does that mean? There's supposed to be some debugging info here, but I'm not sure how it works. Oh. Yeah, I have no idea how it works. We have to figure this out. So read, yeah, those are just the actual tools. So we have query code, we have read file, we have write file. I wonder, I wonder what the error is. Like invalid value for content, expected a string, got null. Is it because we don't return anything from writing a file? It could be. It's just that the stack trace is so large that... You know what we're gonna do? We're just gonna return okay. And then we're gonna try again. Let's see. Could you change the initial count to 10? Oh, it actually did it. That's funny. That's funny. It actually did it. We just didn't get a response. Where's the project? That is funny. Calling it, oh, sorry, project. Look at that. It actually made a change. Okay, let's try it again so that it actually... that's funny. But it did answer great, right? Can you set the initial count to 10? Now, the tricky thing with coding agents is like basically doing complex stuff. Things that are outside the bounds of the actual... Yeah. But this is the whole thing. So... Oh, great. Look at this. Now it actually asks it. Where is the initial count set in the code base? The initial count is likely set within the React component in... It's so funny. So interesting. But I thought I could like look at the actual tool calling and everything. Yeah. Traces, stream. I have no idea what all this stuff is. Okay. So we have something very simple in place. And look at that. So what would be the next thing to try? So what we would need to give this agent is, of course, access to shells and output and all of this stuff. And that's actually super tricky to do because like a shell doesn't always exit, right? It's actually super tricky. But that said, what's really cool about CodeSandbox is that we can do things like we can actually open a shell in the browser, like a specific shell. We can open it in the browser and tell you as a user to interact with it, for example. We can do a lot of cool stuff. So I wonder like how, yeah, like a shell is very tricky to do for an agent because you have to, so let's say you start up a shell and let's say it doesn't exit, right? You don't know beforehand if it exits or not. So you kind of have to look at it, right? To see what's happening. I think how you would have to efficiently implement that is actually polling the terminal. So you have this like one tool call for like running a command. And then you would kind of have to poll poll the output. And then you would have to check if the output has changed. And if it has changed, you would basically have a terminal agent. And then you would ask that agent, that LLM, like, what's the state of this? And it would have to tell you when the function call is done and then return the actual output. So very interesting. So in agents here, we can have like multiple, we could have a code agent, we could have a shell agent, which is basically just, or a terminal agent. We could have like a dependency agent, like we could have many different kinds of agents. It's very cool that we can just build that here. So this would be a very fun project to kind of like just build up these different agents and then also dive into these workflows of I have a feeling like a workflow is kind of like being triggered by something. Workflows. Model, LLM, yeah. Fetch weather. Yeah, that's just fetching the thing. Plan activities. Suggest appropriate activities. It's very interesting. Yeah. Oh, trigger schema. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting stuff. But we can get quite like, yeah, I'm just reflecting on what I would want to do next. I think what I would want to do next is to actually make the code rag listen to file changes and keep the embedding store up to date. But even that's super, super tricky. Like if you see VS Code using Copilot, you see it's doing this indexing. And I would expect that to be something similar. Not that they necessarily do these code summaries like I do here, like conceptual indexing. I think they do more like actual code. But what was I gonna say? But yeah, you have all these like files you don't want to index. Like even here, it looks at an SVG and it's actually like, it's so funny. It's actually able to, do I still have it here? Yeah. No, do I? Yeah. So like ESLint configuration, TypeScript. Yeah, so like TypeScript declaration file, CSS code, React component, CSS styling, is an SVG image that represents the logo. The logo consists of various shapes and paths filled with a cyan color. So it's kind of like just summarizing the SVG. But there are like tons of files you don't want to embed. But the nice thing is that if you ask for a summary, you can just it's very easy for you to kind of determine if it's something that's conceptually important in the code base, because you can check the length of the file. Like if a human can't conceptualize what's in the file, there's no reason to conceptualize it. You can check the length. So if it's like more than like, I don't know, 1,000 lines of code or whatever, or like even just look at the actual like density of text or whatever, like how many spaces are there in the text, whatever. Do you have some kind of process just looking at the file and determining if this is something worth summarizing? And if it isn't, you can just have a default text, but you'll still have the name of the file and its place in the code base. So you still have some conceptual knowledge for the AI to consume. Where was I? I think we're gonna install Shukidar, and we're gonna try to keep this document up to date. Let's see. But it is kind of tricky because, as I said, we have summaries for directories as well. So if you change a file in a directory, you also have to recreate the summary of the directory. I don't like that. And why are directories important? Well, it's important for code placement. Like when you add something to a code base, you add it to a folder, you don't add it to a file. Like when you add a file, you don't add it to a file, you add it to a folder. So you have to understand what's the conceptual meaning of the folder to understand which folder to add a file to. But I think also like for these folder summaries, like if I've changed the count to 10, I could also like take the existing summary of a folder and just explain the change that was made. Yeah, I'm not sure how I'm gonna keep this stuff up to date. I was also thinking about like just it's so much easier to keep things up to date when you on a trigger, right? So if you pull from Git, for example, that's a nice trigger. But what if you're iterating on something? Like you're not like done. So what's possible to do is like you can like Git is really excellent to figure out what needs to be updated. Yeah, I have actually no idea how to efficiently keep that up to date. Like a very naive approach is to, or a very brute approach is to use a file system watcher. But then every time you save something, it's gonna go and do work that's not needed. That's likely not needed. So it's not very efficient. And there's also another aspect of this. So if you're actually, like, if you're working with an AI, right? So you're in this chat context and it will have memory in that chat context. So by combining so let's say you're in the current state of the code, and then you'll start making changes, but that will actually be part of the chat history, those changes. So you can argue that the current state before you like prompting and the memory of the prompt is enough to kind of build up the current state of the code base. And it can always read the file, right? So it's more when you move from one thing to something completely different. Yeah. So it's almost like when you're kind of done doing the thing you're doing. So that would be like when I wonder if you can like watch the Git history. So every time a new commit, so it's almost like every time, so you keep a reference to the current SHA, right? So every state of the store, the vector store, is tied to a SHA. And then as you're changing the SHA, either by you just committing something, or pulling something, or whatever you do, like you're changing the code. It could use the previous SHA and the new SHA to figure out what file paths has changed. It knows what files has been deleted, what's been added, what's been modified. And it can like build, recreate the index based on that. And it's nice because doing a commit means I've done something. I'm happy with something. I'm likely going to end this conversation. And even if you don't end the conversation with the AI, it's like there's memory in that AI. Or in that thread. Thinking. Yeah, I think we're gonna try that. I think it's possible to watch. There's like probably an npm package that allows you to let's see. Is there? I'm gonna ask this thing. So I have this code rag I am building, and I am reflecting on how to best keep the index up to date with changes to files. I want to avoid using a file watcher because rebuilding the changes requires new calls to embeddings, and I am also creating conceptual summaries of files and folders. I would rather want to make sure that when a commit or I am wondering if I could rather listen to the head change on Git. So whenever it changes, I check what files are added, removed, changed, and update the index from that. What do you think? I think that's smart. It's simple. It's very simple. Trade-offs. Cons is resolving solely on head changes means you might miss changes that are in the working directory but not yet committed. That's true, but that I'm arguing that's in the memory of your chat. Commit granularly. Developers might bundle multiple changes into one commit, making it harder to determine fine-grained updates unless you parse it. But I don't care about fine-grained updates. I just care about what files do I need to look at. Operations like rebasing, merging, or force pushing might require additional handling. Yeah. But doesn't rebase... Yeah, exactly. Because if I rebase, I don't only add a new head, right? I don't only change... Ugh, fucking rebase. What I could do, though, is... Yeah, that's very interesting. So if I'm rebasing, it basically means that I'm changing the Git history, right? So it would mean that I would have to rebuild everything because I would have no idea to know what's actually changed. Well, okay. What about this? What about having a file watcher, but the only thing it does is so the file watcher just collects changes. So whenever you modify a file, you delete a file, you add a file, just keeps track of that. And then whenever you apply some Git operation, because that indicates that, god damn it. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah, so what I mean, we could use a file watcher to just collect the changes you're making. And then whenever the head changes, we flush it out. That's what I mean to say. That's safer because if you were to do some kind of rebase or merge or whatever, something that kind of just makes it hard to diff what actually changed, we have the source of truth, which are actual changes to the file system. And then like what we have to, yeah. And the question is like, does the head watcher change before? So if you do a rebase, for example, like, are we getting all the file system events of the file changes before the head change? But that's like, you can delay it by a little bit, I guess. How would I watch for head changes in Git from Node? But it also, what I also like about this concept is that it simplifies a lot. Because we just have to, oh my God. Yeah, that wasn't the worst. Wow, you have to do an interval? Yeah, no, but we can use Shokidar for that as well. So I actually watch the head file. Okay, so we can install Shokidar we listen to general changes in the project. And we also listen specifically for the head file. And then yeah, I think it makes sense. Well, I think I have to think about this. That's what I think. But yeah, I feel pretty confident I want to try it at least. And then the question is more like, how do I efficiently update the parent summaries? It's very interesting how you can take the existing summary of a file. So you can, you could rather, well, no, that's not very efficient. I think it's more efficient to just create a new summary. Yeah, but what we can do is store the actual summary in the database, I think. No, it's very annoying. Well, maybe not. Okay, no, I have to think about that one a bit more. But we're gonna do it, because when we have that, we can actually like start doing stuff, and then we can like take on a project. We could take on a project and we could increase the complexity. Hello there. Okay, you know what? We have a few more minutes. I have a sync. So let's go in here and let's see. Whatever. Let's close down the coding agent, and then we're gonna npm install Shukidar. The thing I'm reflecting on is that I'm actually not gonna. Okay, what we can do, we can just do some manual commits, right? Yeah. And then I want to check out this memory module. Rag memory. You can organize by thread ID. Resource which are really user involved in ensuring that the agent's memory and context are correctly associated with the right end. Managing conversation context. Yeah. Memory. Very interesting. I haven't looked into all of this. Oh, so you have, oh, interesting. So you have a vector store for, oh, that's interesting. But I don't think we actually, yeah, do we? No. Oh my God. This just builds and builds. Very interesting. Okay, so I was thinking about, so memory is way more than I thought it was. So memory, I thought about that as like just remember the last messages, which you can do, but you can also build this up to be like tied to actual persistence. You can persist all the messages. You can add vect embeddings to those messages so that if you have some kind of solution where you like you have a long-lived like relationship with a user, you can just keep all that history and keep it as context for any new conversations. Like, we don't really care about that here. We just want that like single conversation to kind of be in memory. I wonder if there's a way to just configure that. I'm very impressed by the people behind this. So we need to have some memory. What's the simplest memory we can apply here? Conversation context. Key recent message history. This is the one we want. And what I wonder is, what's in this memory? Is it just the actual output in the thread? What about function calling? Does it keep that in memory as well? And how the hell do I add the memory? It doesn't add the memory anywhere. Where do I add the memory? Huh. So let's look at the, I guess I added to the agent. Where do I add memory? Oh, this is old stuff. Using memory, agent memory. Oh, but where the hell do I get the memory from? It doesn't give me the import. Oh, it's an actual package. Look at this. Okay, but anyways, let's install it. Oh. Okay, so this was import memory from, not memory, I mean memory. Okay, so last message, I don't know. Yeah, let's just do 5. I want to see what happens here. So can I add memory here? Yeah, exactly. Oh, npm run dev. Just want to see how it works. Yeah, I'm gonna do something interesting. So I'm gonna say, oh, look at this. So now I got chat history. Huh, cool. Could you change the initial count to 10? On my 80s playlist. Wow, this took a long time. What you up to? Oh, okay, cool. Oh, could you add 5 to the initial count? Because now it needs to know that it changed it to 10, right? So, but another thing is, I'm wondering, I could maybe ask it, what is the code change you made? Well, I can try this first. It's very slow though. I'm curious about that. Yeah, that's cool. Could you give me the line of code you changed. Just print it out here. Huh. That's really cool. That's actually very cool. Okay, so yeah, I like this. It has this memory. So this helped. This was one of the big challenges. Well, not big challenges, but one of the things you kind of don't think about when you use something like ChatGPT or try to build like your own coding agent. It's like you have to, one thing is context from the code. Another thing is context from the actual conversation. So I was using initially OpenAI. They have like a thread API. So they do the memory management of the thread. But it's very like you don't control much of it, and you have no idea how OpenAI actually like builds up the context of that conversation. So I really love this, having this memory thing. Very, very interesting. Okay, so that's nice. So the final thing we really need, look at that. Starts on 15. So the thing I really want to do is just try to scale it up, just add more and more complex tasks, and then implement the tools that we need to make those things possible. So, but to be able to do that, we really need to be able to iterate on something. And to be able to iterate on something, we have to make the code rag update. So maybe a very naive thing we can do now is that we're just gonna, did I install Shukidar? Yeah. So we're gonna use, let's see, I don't need this. We're gonna use Shukidar to, can I format this? Configure. Oh, look at that, nice. We're just gonna watch the files, and then we're naively gonna just run everything we need to run. And I have this function I built called traverse tree. And the tricky thing with this is that you're just giving an array of files and it figures out how to traverse those files. The problem is when it creates a directory document, and these results are based on the actual results, while we actually need, I think I need to change the approach here. Because what I'm doing now is that the first time you fire up the project, create file document. Yeah, like when I built this, I didn't consider that things would change. Like it makes sense when you have like an array of all the file paths, you just run through them and you build up these summaries. But it doesn't lend itself well to changes. Because if it was like immutable, that would be fine, right? Whenever, like that's a nice world. Immutable worlds where you can just, oh, there was a change to all the files. I can just run through everything again. And maybe I can do that. Maybe I can store the timestamp of when something was changed. The problem though is deletions. So I could just run files to embed every time that, oh, this is interesting. We can simplify it even more. So what if I do that? What if I, every time there's a file change, I'll just have some debounce on it, and I'll go find all the files to embed again. And I just run through the whole thing, and then I just look, did the actual file change? And if it did, I'm going to create a new summary. And when I go through to create the directory document, I just check, did any of the files change? If so, create a new summary. That's a really nice way to think about it. The problem is file deletions. Because those files wouldn't appear. Well, okay, that's interesting. So what we can do though is whenever we have a deletion, no, we can't do that. Yeah. No, I have to think about this. I want to do something very, very simple. That's hopefully also is enough. Because it needs to be rock solid. That's the thing. I guess you can always have a button that kind of refreshes the index, but you wouldn't really know, right? Suddenly the agent will kind of give a bad result, and it's because there's something wrong with the index. And that's a big problem. But I think we're onto something. It's more like not files to embed. Like this shouldn't be files to embed. It shouldn't be a string array. It should be objects that explains Yeah, it would kind of have to be like an array that explains what happened to the file. But it's weird to put like a temporary deletion status on a file and then remove it from the array after we've done the updates. Yeah, no, I have to think about this. I can't push through this now. This needs sleep, I think. But yeah, anyways, sorry. Like we're not doing anything. I'm just sitting here staring at the screen. But this is very, very cool. And it might not seem like much what we've done, but we've actually been able to, like the actual product idea behind this is freaking mind-blowing. So just like Mastra, like creating tools for developers, like the thing we're exploring here is also creating just an abstraction over that. So that you would have like this SDK where you can just point to a repo, and doing so will create like this sandbox environment where you can just check out new branches, and those new branches, they are actual forks of the environment, and you can just prompt it to make changes. And that lives in its own environment, but all the indexes and everything is just there because it's a literal fork of the environment. It's very, very cool stuff. So we're going to explore that more. But yeah, sorry, I'm just going to stop streaming, and then I'm going to sleep on the RAG thing, and then I'm going to build that. So we're kind of set up for actually applying like more and more complex scenarios and see how can we build up these agents to handle all the complexity of development. So as we talked about the shell agent, dependency agent, stuff like that. And then we'll see where we're at after playing around with that. Cool. And hopefully I'm going to discuss this with a colleague as well to see if I can get some excitement around the product idea or the SDK idea for this. And then I can share more about that as well. Okay, cool. Bye for now.